There's a kind of confusion you can't really talk about with anyone, mostly because you don't even know how to explain it to yourself. Sometimes it just feels like a question. Other times it feels like everything at once. And when that feeling shows up for another woman, a thought comes in that you try to push away, but it keeps coming back. And when it does, it gets harder and harder to pretend that nothing has changed. This video is for the moment when you start asking yourself what you're really feeling, but you're still not ready to answer. It's about what happens when you start coming out to yourself. The first step nobody talks about, but the one that can change everything. So take your time and watch this with care. And if anything inside you starts to stir, write in the comments. There's something in me asking for space, because you might see yourself here in a way you never have before. Some days, you wake up, do everything you're supposed to do, reply to everyone, even laugh with people, but it still feels like life is only happening on the outside. Inside, there's this strange feeling, like there's a question living quietly in your chest, just waiting to be heard. Sometimes that question shows up in the simplest ways, like when a song hits differently or when you realize your gaze lingered a little longer than usual on someone. And the wildest part is, even when you try to ignore it, your body responds. Your heart races. The thoughts come back. You see two women loving each other, and without fully understanding why, something inside you stirs. And when that happens, no matter how confusing it feels, it gets harder and harder to pretend that nothing is changing. But what about you? Have you ever felt like you're living on autopilot while something inside is quietly trying to wake up in a completely new way? There comes a moment when what you've been trying to hide becomes too heavy to keep inside. It's not a dramatic outburst. It's not a sudden revelation. It's a long pause in front of the mirror, a quiet thought between all the others. It's when the truth finally clicks. Coming out, before it ever involves anyone else, starts with a silent decision. The choice to stop lying to yourself. It's that moment when you feel something for another woman and realize it doesn't have to mean fear, shame, or urgency. Accepting your sexuality doesn't have to be fast, loud, or public. It can be slow, gentle, on your terms. But once this process begins, there's no way to go back to who you were pretending to be. Because even if no one else knows, you've already started becoming who you really are. Sometimes the truth starts showing up in the most unexpected places, like in that dream where you kiss a woman and you wake up with your heart racing, feeling something that somehow felt more real than any kiss you've ever had. You try to brush it off, but it stays with you, echoing through your body. Or maybe it's a scene in a show. Two women look at each other, get closer, touch, and something inside you freezes, or flutters, or makes you pause the episode just to sit with that feeling a little longer. It's not just empathy, it's recognition. Then there's that moment when you're with your friends and someone jokes like, "Oh, so you're on the team now?" And suddenly, you can't laugh like you used to, because somehow that comment hits differently now. These are quiet signs, small but persistent. Moments that stir everything inside. And that's when the question starts to grow, softly but steadily. Am I coming out to myself without even realizing it? There's a kind of closet no one else can see, but it holds you tight, like it's made of stone. It doesn't have a door or a lock, but it's always there, standing between what you feel and what you allow yourself to feel. So many women who love women spend years in this quiet space, pretending they don't know, trying to convince themselves it's not real, even when their body already knows, even when their heart is already screaming. The truth is, Accepting yourself doesn't start with a pride flag or a coming out post. It begins with something much more private, the courage to admit to yourself that there's desire, affection, curiosity, longing, that something inside you is asking to be heard. Coming out in this first and quiet step means facing that shadowy place you built to protect yourself, but that now is keeping you from really living. And it's only when you peek through that crack, even shaking, that your story begins to shift. That's the moment your journey of self-recognition truly begins. The first step is to let your desire exist, even if you don't fully understand what it means yet. Realizing you might be into women doesn't require a label right away. It just asks that you listen to what you feel, without rushing, without drama, and without judgment. The second step is learning to truly observe yourself with kindness. Maybe it's writing down what made your heart flutter that day, a glance, a moment, a scene, or that question about your sexuality that keeps coming back like a gentle but persistent wave. The third step is finding a way to let it out, even if it's just a message typed and deleted a dozen times, or a letter you write only for yourself. What matters is not keeping everything trapped inside. Sometimes, the first time you come out isn't to anyone else, it's to yourself quietly. And the fourth step is facing the mirror with more honesty than harshness, standing in front of yourself and admitting what you feel might hurt, but it can also heal. Female sexuality is vast, valid, and deeply real. And the moment you begin to see yourself clearly, the world slowly starts to see you too. What if I'm just confused? That question that keeps repeating in your head is more common than you think. And you know what? Feeling insecure doesn't diminish your value. Doubt is often your heart's way of protecting itself while trying to understand what you're feeling. You don't need absolute certainty to get started. You just need honesty, because coming to terms with yourself doesn't happen all at once. It unfolds slowly, in moments of silence, in your desires, in small discoveries that don't always have a name. Sometimes the journey is confusing, full of stops and starts, and that's okay. You're not wrong for not knowing exactly what you feel. Sexuality isn't a formula, it's a process. And maybe the doubt that's weighing on you today is the same doubt that will guide you to your truth tomorrow. Before I could tell anyone else, I had to tell myself. And that wasn't an easy conversation. I rehearsed it in my head, argued with every thought, tried to convince myself it was just a phase, but deep down, I already knew. Realizing I like women wasn't some big explosion. It was more like a wave. It kept coming back and back and back until I finally stopped resisting. Coming out to myself wasn't about shouting it to the world. It was about finally stopping the silence inside me. There were days I cried just because I admitted what I felt. Other days I smiled with embarrassment, but also with relief. This journey of self-discovery is like that. Quiet, confusing, sometimes lonely, but deeply freeing. And in that moment, even without knowing what would come next, I felt like I had finally stopped pretending to be someone I wasn't. This video might not give you all the answers, but if something stirred inside you while watching, maybe it gave you permission to begin. You don't need to define yourself right now. You just need to stop hiding from yourself. Because coming out to yourself means no longer pretending you don't feel what you feel. So tell me, if you were truly honest with yourself today, what would you say? Drop it in the comments. The moment when you first started to question your truth. Maybe it was a scene, a memory, or a feeling that never really left your chest. Sometimes, saying it out loud or writing it here is the first brave step toward truly hearing yourself. If this video helped you in any way, make sure to subscribe. Here, you don't need to have all the answers. You just need the courage to feel. And feeling all by itself is already a revolutionary act. And if something in this video touched you, share it with someone who might be living through the same silence. Someone who may be discovering that she likes women, but hasn't even said it to herself yet. What feels small to you could be exactly what someone else needs to finally start accepting herself and realize she's not alone on this path.